I want to challenge something you have believed your entire life. A piece of conventional wisdom so deeply embedded in the culture, so universally accepted, that most men have never thought to question it. The idea that knowledge is power. You have heard it 1,000 times, from parents, from teachers, from every institution that has ever had an interest in convincing you that the accumulation of knowledge is the path to success. It is not. Knowledge is not power. Knowledge is potential power. It becomes power only when it is organized into a definite plan of action and directed toward a specific end. And the kind of knowledge that does that, the kind that actually builds wealth, creates opportunity, and produces results in the real world, is not general. It is specialized. The world is full of educated men who are broke, men who have spent decades accumulating knowledge across dozens of subjects and cannot convert any of it into a definite result. Men with degrees on their walls and empty ambitions in their minds. Men who know a great deal about many things and have built nothing with any of it. This lecture is about why that happens, and more importantly, it is about what the men who actually build things know that the educated men do not. Let me draw the distinction precisely, because everything in this lecture depends on understanding it clearly. General knowledge is broad. It covers many subjects. It is the kind of knowledge that educational institutions specialize in producing. A man who has been exposed to history, science, literature, mathematics, philosophy, and a dozen other disciplines. A man who can hold an intelligent conversation on almost any topic, and who cannot necessarily do anything specific with any of it. Specialized knowledge is different in every respect. It is narrow, it is deep. It is acquired with a definite purpose in mind and organized toward that purpose from the moment of acquisition. It is not knowledge for its own sake. It is knowledge in service of a specific result. The distinction sounds simple. It is not. Because most men, when they think about improving themselves, advancing their careers, or building something of significance, instinctively reach for more general knowledge. They read widely. They take courses in subjects that interest them. They accumulate information the way some men accumulate possessions, without a clear sense of what it is all for. And then they wonder why the accumulation produces so little. The answer is that general knowledge, no matter how vast, does not organize itself. It does not apply itself. It does not convert itself into a plan of action or a result in the world. It simply sits there, in the mind of the man who acquired it, waiting for something that never comes. Specialized knowledge, by contrast, is acquired in the context of a definite purpose. Every piece of it is immediately relevant to something the man is trying to build or achieve. Every piece of it can be applied the moment it is acquired. And because it is organized around a specific end, it compounds. Each new piece connects to and strengthens every piece that came before it. I want to be honest about something that most men find uncomfortable when they first encounter this distinction. The educational system, as valuable as it is in many respects, is not designed to produce specialized knowledge. It is designed to produce general knowledge. Broadly educated men who have been exposed to a wide range of subjects and who can function effectively as citizens, employees, and participants in a complex society. That is not a criticism of education. It is a description of its purpose. And its purpose is not the same as the purpose of a man who intends to build something significant with his life. The man who leaves formal education and immediately begins applying what he learned toward a definite purpose, who takes the general foundation and begins building specialized expertise on top of it, that man is using his education correctly. The man who leaves formal education believing that what he has accumulated is sufficient, who mistakes the breadth of his exposure for the depth of his capability, that man has misunderstood what he has been given. He has been given a foundation, not a building. Let me draw the distinction precisely, because everything in this lecture depends on understanding it clearly. General knowledge is broad. It covers many subjects. It is the kind of knowledge that educational institutions specialize in producing. A man who has been exposed to history, science, literature, mathematics, philosophy, and a dozen other disciplines. A man who can hold an intelligent conversation on almost any topic, and who cannot necessarily do anything specific with any of it. Specialized knowledge is different in every respect. It is narrow. It is deep. It is acquired with a definite purpose in mind and organized toward that purpose from the moment of acquisition. It is not knowledge for its own sake. It is knowledge in service of a specific result. The distinction sounds simple. It is not, because most men, when they think about improving themselves, advancing their careers, or building something of significance, instinctively reach for more general knowledge. They read widely. They take courses in subjects that interest them. They accumulate information the way some men accumulate possessions, without a clear sense of what it is all for. And then they wonder why the accumulation produces so little. The answer is that general knowledge, no matter how vast, does not organize itself. It does not apply itself. It does not convert itself into a plan of action or a result in the world. It simply sits there in the mind of the man who acquired it, waiting for something that never comes. Specialized knowledge, by contrast, is acquired in the context of a definite purpose. Every piece of it is immediately relevant to something the man is trying to build or achieve. Every piece of it can be applied the moment it is acquired. And because it is organized around a specific end, it compounds. Each new piece connects to and strengthens every piece that came before it. I want to be honest about something that most men find uncomfortable when they first encounter this distinction. The educational system, as valuable as it is in many respects, is not designed to produce specialized knowledge. It is designed to produce general knowledge. Broadly educated men who have been exposed to a wide range of subjects and who can function effectively as citizens, employees, and participants in a complex society. That is not a criticism of education. It is a description of its purpose. And its purpose is not the same as the purpose of a man who intends to build something significant with his life. The man who leaves formal education and immediately begins applying what he learned toward a definite purpose, who takes the general foundation and begins building specialized expertise on top of it, that man is using his education correctly. The man who leaves formal education believing that what he has accumulated is sufficient, who mistakes the breadth of his exposure for the depth of his capability, that man has misunderstood what he has been given. He has been given a foundation, not a building, and a foundation, however solid, produces nothing on its own. I want you to examine your own knowledge in light of this distinction, not what you have studied, not what certificates you hold or what subjects you have been exposed to, but what you actually know, specifically, deeply, practically, that is genuinely valuable to someone willing to pay for it. Most men, when they examine themselves honestly, discover that their knowledge is wider than it is deep, that they know something about many things and a great deal about very little. That discovery is not a condemnation. It is a starting point. I want to tell you about a man who understood this principle more completely than almost anyone I ever studied. His name was Henry Ford, and during the First World War he found himself the subject of a series of newspaper editorials that called him an ignorant pacifist. Ford was not a man who tolerated insults quietly. He sued the newspaper for libel. During the trial, the newspaper's attorneys decided to prove their case by putting Ford on the witness stand and demonstrating his ignorance through direct examination. They asked him questions across a wide range of subjects: history, military strategy, science, law, general knowledge of the kind that educated men were expected to possess. Ford answered many of them simply by saying he did not know. The attorneys pressed on, satisfied that they were proving their point, that here was a man, one of the wealthiest and most powerful industrialists in the world, who could not answer basic questions that any educated man should know. And then Ford said something that stopped the courtroom. He told the attorneys that on his desk he had a row of electric push buttons, that by pushing the right button he could summon within minutes men who could answer any question he needed answered, on any subject, at any level of depth required. And that given that arrangement, why on earth would he clutter his mind with general knowledge when he had men around him who could supply whatever knowledge he needed, on demand, at any moment? The jury found in Ford's favor. But the lesson Ford delivered from that witness stand is worth more than the verdict. Ford did not build the Ford Motor Company because he knew more than the engineers who worked for him. He did not build it because he had studied metallurgy or mechanical engineering or chemistry at a level that surpassed his specialists. He built it because he knew, with extraordinary precision, what he wanted to build, and he knew how to find, organize, and direct the specialized knowledge of the men around him toward that end. That is the principle in its most powerful form. Not the possession of all required knowledge, but the ability to identify what knowledge is needed, find the men who possess it, and organize their expertise toward a definite purpose. Most men spend their lives trying to become the man who knows everything. Ford understood that the man who knows how to organize what others know is worth more than all of them combined. Now I want to address a question that most men ask when they understand this principle for the first time. If specialized knowledge is what matters, where does a man get it? The answer is anywhere, and that is not a casual answer, it is a precise one. Because one of the most liberating aspects of this principle is that specialized knowledge does not require a formal institution to deliver it. It does not require a degree or a certificate or the approval of an academic body. It requires only that a man identify what he needs to know, specifically in service of a specific purpose, and then acquire it by whatever means are available to him. The sources are numerous. Personal experience is the most valuable. Knowledge acquired by doing, by failing, by adjusting and doing again, produces a depth of understanding that no amount of reading can replicate. The experience of others, accessed through mentorship, through deliberate association with people who know what you need to know, is the second most valuable. Books, courses, libraries, specialized training, all of these are legitimate sources when approached with a specific purpose rather than general curiosity. But here is the mistake most men make with every one of these sources. They acquire knowledge without a plan to apply it. A man who reads extensively about business without ever starting one has not acquired specialized knowledge about business. He has acquired general knowledge about business, which is an entirely different thing. The knowledge has not been tested. It has not been organized toward a specific end. It has not been applied in conditions where the consequences of being wrong are real. It is theory. And theory, however well understood, is not specialized knowledge in the sense that this principle intends. Let me make that distinction as concrete as possible. Two men study the same book on negotiation. They read the same chapters, underline the same passages, take the same notes. One of them immediately begins applying what he has read in his business dealings, his salary conversations, his client relationships. He makes mistakes. He adjusts. He discovers which principles work in practice and which require modification for his specific context. Within a year, he has tested every idea in the book against reality and built a practical capability that is genuinely his own. The other man reads the book, finds it interesting, puts it on his shelf, and reads the next one. Both men have read the same book. Only one of them has acquired specialized knowledge. This is why I say that specialized knowledge is knowledge that has been put to work. Knowledge that has been applied, tested, refined through experience, and organized in a man's mind not as abstract information, but as practical capability. The difference between a man who knows about surgery and a surgeon is not the information they possess. It is what has been done with that information, and what can be done with it when it is needed. There is one more thing I want to say about where specialized knowledge comes from, and it is perhaps the most important thing in this section. Most men look for specialized knowledge in the wrong direction. They look outward, for courses, for books, for credentials, for experts who can give them what they feel they lack. Before looking outward, look inward, because most men already possess more specialized knowledge than they have ever given themselves credit for. Knowledge acquired through years of work in a specific field. Knowledge built through repeated application of a specific skill. Knowledge that feels ordinary to them, invisible almost, simply because they have possessed it so long that they have forgotten what it was like not to have it. That knowledge is not ordinary. To the man who does not have it, it is extraordinarily valuable. The first step in acquiring specialized knowledge is an honest inventory of what you already possess. Before you reach for more, take stock of what is already in your hands. I want to tell you about a different kind of man than Ford. Not a man at the peak of achievement, but a man at the bottom of circumstance. Because this principle does not belong only to the Fords of the world. It belongs to any man willing to look honestly at what he actually knows. A young man came to me once having just lost his position. He had a wife and a child to support and no immediate prospects. He was educated in the general sense. He had attended school. He could read and write and reason, but he had no degree, no professional credential, no obvious qualification that would open a door for him quickly. He sat across from me convinced that what he lacked was knowledge, that if he had studied more, pursued a formal education further, accumulated more credentials, he would not be in the position he was in. I asked him to stop thinking about what he had studied and to tell me instead what he actually knew how to do, not in theory, in practice. What could he do specifically and well that someone would pay him for? He thought about it for a long moment, and then he told me that he knew more about the selling and distribution of green groceries than almost any man in his city. He had worked in the business for years. He knew the suppliers, the seasonal patterns, the pricing structures, the customer behaviors, the logistical challenges, and how to solve them. He knew things about that specific business that men who had studied business formally for years did not know, because they had never done it. That was specialized knowledge. Not the kind that comes with a certificate, not the kind that impresses at dinner parties or earns nods of respect in academic circles, but the kind that produces results, the kind that a man with the right definite purpose could organize into something genuinely valuable. I advised him to take stock of that knowledge, present it to the right people, and use it as his entry point into a new opportunity, which he did. The lesson is not specific to green groceries. It applies to every man in every field. Most men are sitting on specialized knowledge they have never thought to value, because no institution ever gave them a certificate for it, because it was acquired through work rather than study, because it feels ordinary to them simply because they possess it. The market does not care about certificates. It does not care whether your knowledge was acquired in a classroom or on a factory floor or behind a counter or in the back of a truck at 5 in the morning. It cares about results. And specialized knowledge, honestly assessed, deliberately organized, and applied toward a definite purpose, produces results. There is one more dimension of this principle that I consider essential, and that most men overlook entirely when they first encounter it. A man does not need to personally possess all the specialized knowledge required for his definite purpose. He needs to be able to access it. This is perhaps the most liberating idea in this entire lecture, because it means that the limitations of a man's personal knowledge, however real, are not the limitations of what he can build. They are simply the boundaries of what he can build alone. And no great thing has ever been built alone. Every significant achievement in the history of human enterprise has been built by a man with a definite purpose who surrounded himself with people whose specialized knowledge filled the gaps in his own. Ford did not know how to build an engine at the level of his engineers. He did not need to. He knew what he wanted the engine to do, and he knew how to find and organize the men who could build it. Carnegie did not know how to make steel at the level of his metallurgists. He did not need to. He knew the business of steel, the markets, the customers, the opportunities, and he surrounded himself with men who knew the making of it. Rockefeller did not know how to drill for oil at the level of his fieldmen. He did not need to. He knew how to build an organization that could find it, extract it, refine it, and sell it at a scale no single man's knowledge could have produced. What each of these men possessed, with extraordinary precision, was the knowledge of how to identify what specialized knowledge was needed, find the men who had it, and organize their combined expertise toward a definite end. That organizational knowledge, the knowledge of how to build and direct an alliance of specialized expertise, is itself the most valuable form of specialized knowledge a man can possess. Now, I want to make this practical for you, because the examples of Ford and Carnegie and Rockefeller can feel distant. These were men of extraordinary resources operating at an extraordinary scale. And a man listening to this lecture might reasonably ask what any of that has to do with his own situation. Everything. Because the principle does not change with the scale. A man building a small business needs specialized knowledge he does not personally possess, and he can access it through the right partnerships, the right advisors, the right associations. A man pursuing a specific career needs specialized knowledge beyond his current expertise, and he can access it through mentors, through deliberate relationships with people further along the path he is walking. The scale is different. The mechanism is identical. I want you to look at your own definite purpose and ask yourself two questions. First, what specialized knowledge does achieving it require that you do not currently possess? Be specific, not a vague sense that you need to know more, but a precise identification of the specific gaps between what you know and what your purpose requires. Second, who already has that knowledge? Not abstractly, specifically. Who in your current world, or within reach of your current world, possesses the specialized knowledge you need? And what would it take to bring that person into alignment with your purpose? Those two questions, answered honestly and specifically, are worth more than any course you could take or any book you could read on the subject of specialized knowledge, because they do not produce more general information. They produce a plan, and a plan, organized around a definite purpose, supported by the right specialized knowledge, is where everything begins. I want to leave you with the most practical question this lecture can produce. Not a philosophical question, not an abstract challenge. A question you can answer right now, today, with honest self-examination and a piece of paper. What do you actually know? Not what you have studied, not what certificates you hold or what subjects you have been exposed to, or what you could discuss intelligently at a dinner table. What do you know, specifically, deeply, practically, that is genuinely valuable, that has been tested by application, that produces results when it is put to work? And then the harder question. Is that knowledge organized toward a definite purpose, or is it sitting unused, like a tool in a box that has never been opened, like a resource a man carries with him every day without ever thinking to deploy it? Most men, when they examine themselves honestly, discover that they know more than they have given themselves credit for, and have done less with it than they were capable of. The gap between what a man knows and what he builds with what he knows, that gap is not a gap of knowledge. It is a gap of organization, of purpose, of the deliberate decision to take what he knows, specifically, practically, valuably, and point it at something worth building. That decision is available to you right now, not when you have studied more, not when you have acquired another credential or completed another course or read another book. Right now, with what you already know. The only question is whether you will make it.